50 countries around the world to commemorate International Holocaust Memorial Day. This day was established by the United Nations in 2005 to mark 60 years since the liberation of concentration camps and end of the Holocaust. My name is Karen Richmond, Aliya advisor for Nefesh, and I'm here tonight with post-Aliya director Rachel Berger, Nefesh Benoche Lumi, who are serving in their national service, and our new post-Aliya program manager, Yoel Goldberg, who has taken the reins of post-Aliya programming with many excellent events that have taken place over this past month, and many more planned for the future, so stay tuned. The post-Aliya department is proud to bring educational, inspirational, and social programs, trips, seminars, and films to Olim and to the wider community. Tonight, we will have the privilege to see a film about the drive to preserve identity in the face of crushing odds, about the centrality of Jewish tradition and Jewish continuity in the face of devastating and unfathomable loss. The Ringelblum Diaries, which are the foundation of this film, speak of the power of remembrance. We are given the vital responsibility to see the writers' faces, hear their names, and listen to their words, words that are taken directly from their writings found in the buried archives. We remember the writers of the Ringelblum Diaries in the Warsaw Ghetto because they beseeched us with their last remaining strength that their lives and their Jewish community will be remembered. We are fulfilling their last will and testament, remember me, to give them an appropriate final kavod. After the film, we will be honored to hear testimony, a dut, from Yosef Lefkovic, a survivor from Krakow, Poland. Yosef was born in 1926 and was 13 years old when the war began. He is the only surviving member of his family. Yosef made aliya with Nefesh B'Nefesh at the age of 88 in 2014 and continues to travel to Poland to give a dut, testimony, to thousands of students from around the world. Yosef, may your family and all victims of the Shoah's memory be a blessing. May we all find this film most meaningful.
Somewhere, years ago, there was a mother who knew that her son was the cleverest, the most talented, the most beautiful. And now the brightest and most beautiful child in the world lies in a strange street. And his name isn't even known.
We should have seen the worst coming.
The Germans have embarked on a program of mass murder.
The world's turning upside down.
But we did not want to know the truth. We did not want to see it.
Does the world know about our suffering?
Emanuel Ringelblum understood that he had a story to tell, and it was the most important story he would ever have to tell.
Almost all the photography that we have was taken by the German propaganda unit.
Will the Germans write our history, or will we write our history?
Let the witness be our writing.
I laid the first brick for the archive in October 1939.
Their goal was to write the history of the war from the Jewish perspective. And there was no time to lose.
The worst scenario was in the process of happening.
To leave time capsules was one of the most effective forms of resistance. We can at least fight to ensure that our memory will be based on what we write and not on what the Germans show.
Our will to live is mightier than the will to destruction.
Writing becomes the only recourse. That was the ultimate act of defiance.
You don't really need guns to fight. You could fight with paper and pen.
This is what made this collection of documents so absolutely unique.
One thing is clear to all of us. Our devotion and constant terror have not been in vain.
It was a massive collection of the voices of a murdered people.
Among those taken away was Rabbi Ubuk,
Kelly Sexton,
Israel Lichtenstein,
Leib Golden,
Abraham Levin,
Halina.
Emmanuel Ringelblum.
Remember, my name is Nahum Gazivich. I am writing this as a witness.
The loss is immeasurable. But if there's any possible expression of nechama for our nation and hope for our future, it comes from everyone in this room tonight, from every single Oleh who has made their home in Israel, who understands that the future of the Jewish people is in our own land. 75 years after the diaries were buried, we Olim gathered in our capital city, Yerushalayim. We listen to the testimonies of the writers of the diaries. We see their photographs. We hear their names. And with this, bring kavod to their memory. We will now call on Nefesh b'Nefesh Oleh, Yosef Lefkovic, who was accompanied by his grandson, Noam. Noam made aliya and served in the Israeli Defense Force as a lone soldier. Noam, your presence tonight and your service to our country brings pride and hope and nachat to your grandfather and to all of us. Thank you for being with us. I know it's very difficult to know where to begin, but if you can just begin with a little bit of your experiences in Poland as a youth.
There's always difficulties to begin, but I learned that you begin from Bereshit. We begin from the beginning. Just referring to that movie, can you hear me? Is it clear? Okay. Just to referring to that movie that we just saw, sitting comfortably on our chairs here, all those horrors that you have seen here, I went through personally. Those and so many more that is very hard to describe. If I would have to tell all those stories, we would have to sit here a whole night, maybe a whole month. But I was asked to say something about my youth. I was brought up in Krakow. I was born in Poland and went through 5 years, full 5 years of killing. All the killing machines were working in Poland for all those years until Polish Jewry was totally destroyed. And I was from those most youngest ones that came into all those horrors and miracles after miracles after miracles that is very hard to number them. Constantly miracles. All those young boys at that time, they were gathered and sent them away. We never knew where, but we never saw them again. At my youth in Krakow, we had a very comfortable life. Polish Jewry were not wealthy, but we lived happy. We had for hundreds of years, 1,000 years of Polish Jewry in Poland, in Krakow. It was a very, very Jewish city. We were living in Krakow in the heart of the Jewish quarter, the heart, called Ulica Szeroka, and there our street has our name till this very day, facing the center of that center square in Krakow. Today it has become a touristic area. Thousands and thousands of people from all religions and all races are coming there because that place was full of synagogues. full of Botei Midrushim, full of yeshivas. Even I pointed out to the mikvahs where it used to be. When the war broke out in 1939, my father was called to the army. He came to the recruiting office. He was giving the uniform with a rifle. He didn't have a chance even to put it on. The Germans already crossed the borders. He gave back the whole package that he received. He came home. We were very scared. We knew, we smelled the rat. We knew what is going on because way before the Germans deported the Ostjuden, all the Jews that came from the east to look for prosperity in Germany, they were all kicked out. We heard about Kristallnacht. We knew about all those things. Those refugee Jews that came, we were having appeals in the shuls, in all the public places to please take in those refugees because they were kicked out without anything. The war was very cruel. It started with shortages. We had whatever we had, and then we had to go and sell whatever we could. The most expensive thing wasn't worthless. Gold, silver, jewelry, diamond, you couldn't eat them. It was hard to get anything. Money wasn't doing much, but at least something you could do for money. I used to lie down in the sidewalk in front of a bakery early evening, like let's say 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, on the sidewalk with a blanket to lie there to wait for the morning when the bakery will open. They had also very few bread, not much. If you were in the front, you had a chance to, because the lineup was streets and streets, it could have, I don't know, half a kilometer. So I used to do that. I was the older in my house. And then they started to take the people to Zwangsarbeit, means forced labor. We did all kind of forced labor, but we came home to sleep at the home. And then one day I was working in a place digging out potatoes in Poland. It was probably not the Germans' property, but they forced us to dig out potatoes for them, and all of a sudden, Polish police with the Jewish Ordnungsdienst, which was where the police came over and said, everybody goes back. And I'll go back and tell you that we had to leave Krakow because, as you saw here, cutting the beards, cutting the coats, humiliating, dehumanizing, we saw all that in that heart of Krakow, the Jewish Krakow, and the German SS and the police, they were constantly patrolling this area more than any other areas because they were Jewish. And they had to, I had payers, we had to cut the payers, and it became very, very dangerous. For my family, my father, my mother, we decided we will leave here. It is very dangerous. So we had an uncle somewhere in a city called Nowe Miasto, Neustadt in Yiddish. By the way, I understood all that Yiddish speaking here and all that Polish speaking here, which is very original. So we went to that Nowe Miasto. That uncle said it's quiet. We were sick and tired of to see all those sceneries every day. So we packed up whatever we could, and we went. We were living there for a few weeks. My father went out one day to shop or whatever. He came home beaten up. So we said, oh, it's not quiet anymore. We have to go. We have to go further. So we went back to a city that I was born there, Zaloszyce, in Polish Jaloszyce. I was just 2 weeks ago, I was just in Poland, and I was in Belgium. All those people from Zaloszyce were brought to Belgium. So the police came, and we have to go back to the Zaloszyce. Away from the work. We came to Zaloszyce. They were already bodies on the ground. And I couldn't reach to my family, but I reached uncle. He was in the beginning of the market square. I came to his house. I saw Germans screaming and yelling in the whole market square. The whole city square was illuminated with reflectors, and there were cars and trucks there. And the Germans were yelling and screaming, and that it was hard for the ears. I reached that uncle's house, and he told me what's going on. I didn't know, because there was a situation that when they gathered all the people from that working place, I tried to hide. I saw something bad is happening, so I tried to hide. So I went into a place, to a stable, and I was sitting there. And when night fell, I went out and started to, when I saw some light somewhere, I knocked at the door, and I said, "Can you help me?" I figured somebody will help me. They slammed the door in my face. I went to another place at night. I saw light, and "Can you give me something to eat?" Slammed the door in my face. A third place I went, there was an old babushka, an old lady milking the cows, so she gave me a little bit of hot milk from the cows. And I had nowhere to go. I was hiding in a place for a little while. And then I went to, in this place they used to bring us to work. And there was a little train that came to that place and that let us out there and picked us up afterward. But since nobody worked there, that train was just passing by. But I remember there was a little hill there where that train was very slow. So I said, I have nowhere to go. I'll go back to that Zalishitz. I jumped on the train. I lost a shoe. And I came to Zalishitz. And there was already full of SS and screaming and yelling. And I was hiding. I was going from gate to gate. And when I see an SS, I was hiding. And I went out when I didn't see anybody. Finally, I'm coming back. I skipped a little bit. So I came back to that uncle, and he tells me, we have orders that everybody has to be at 6 o'clock on the market square. You're allowed to take 10 kilos. I didn't have 10 kilos because I wasn't at home. In the morning, 6 o'clock, everybody went out. There were 17,000 Jews in Zalishitz. And there were maybe 500, 600, 700 non-Jews. And they all were like, we called Shabbos Goyim. 6 o'clock in the morning, we are on the square. Everybody should sit down. Nobody should get up. We'll get up and get shot. Who we will find after 6 o'clock in the house will be shot on the spot. Anyways, nobody can get up. I sat down there and started crawling on all four because I wanted to find my father, my mother, my siblings, my grandparent, the whole mishpocha. Finally, I reached there crawling on all four. We sit there till noontime. Noontime, the order comes. We are marching all to the train station. We're marching. Everybody slept at the pekel. I didn't have any. They packed the train, but we were more than the train could take, so they had trucks, and they drove us to another city called Miechov, Machev in Yiddish. And there they put us on a field. The field was as far as the eyes could reach. We're sitting on that field. You can imagine a whole day without a drink, without anything. Night falls. It starts to get cold. We're sitting there. Get cold. And we touch the field. It's humid. It's moist. And with every hour, with every time, it gets more wet. All of a sudden, we sit in water. During the night, all our lower part was sitting in water. My father had an idea what it was because he was a milliner, he had a mill, flour mill. He said they opened the dam and they flood us to demoralize us, to dehumanize us. We're sitting there, during that evening, they walk around when it was still light, before the night fell, and they collected all the older people, men and women, older, 2,000 collected from the 17,000. After a while, we had, so we had a good imagination what that meant, that they were killed. We sit there till about noontime, got an order to get up, undress till the waist, and line up, lines. There's still 15,000 people, line up. So we line up. We come in front of the top of the line there was an assessment with a whip, playing God. Showing this way with a whip, showing this way with a whip. And there was another assessment to the right, another to the left. The minute he showed you with the whip where to go, you got to push to go there. End of that lines, 14,250 people to the right, my mother, my sibling, cousins, uncles, aunts to the right. My father, myself to the left. And since I'm here, we were from the 750 people that were selected to life, and the 14,250 were sent. This we found out, we didn't know. All the wartime, we were hoping one day we'll come home, something, we'll meet our families, we'll see my mother. I forgot already how my mother looked like. But after the war, we found out that all those 14,250 were sent to Belgium, to the death camp. I was 2 weeks ago there with many groups of people. And I said Kaddish, I said Yizkor, and put on lights, and it was a very, very commemorative situation there. And we were sent to the 750 people who were marching a whole night, I don't know where. My father with me, my friends with closed eyes, you can imagine not eating, not drinking, not resting. But my father said, get up, wake up, you cannot fall down because you'll be shot. I followed. And they brought us to a place called Lishki. And in Lishki they gave us a job to dry out swamps. So we were standing in the swamp till the waist. We were sinking. So we made channels and we put in pipes. From there they took us to another place. I'm making everything fast because otherwise they took us to a place called Bielichka. Bielichka, there is salt mines. So we had to ship the salt and put them in wagons, bring them up, and they loaded on trucks. After that, they took us to a place called Jerozolimska in Krakow. Jerozolimska was a Beis HaChaim, a cemetery, the Jewish cemetery of Krakow, one of these cemeteries, not that, one of the cemeteries. What happened there? They brought earth movers, big earth movers, destroyed the whole cemetery. All the remains, bones, skulls, everything, like we have to walk on behind those earth movers, collect all the bones with shovels on wheelbarrows and took them to a certain place to dump them. And we leveled out that place called Jerozolimska Beis HaChaim, and it became the concentration camp of Plashuv. There, after that, we built barracks. Plashuv was built about 200 barracks. For a while, it wasn't that bad. Then it came the butcher of Plashuv, Amon Get Yemach Shemoy. And when you saw him, whoever saw Schindler's List remember that murderer shooting, the mother, the baby was saved, whatever. That was just a movie portraying, but I had the real murder. He was almost killing me, but that is a different story. I'm not going to go into it. And in Plaszow, we built the concentration camp, and we worked there quite for some months and months and months. After that, they put us into cattle cars, 160 people in one cattle car. We were standing, you cannot imagine, sardines had a lot of room. We couldn't breathe even. We were so pressed one to the other, kept for 2 days and 2 nights in that train from Plaszow to Auschwitz. Auschwitz was packed, couldn't let us in. We were staying there, and every few minutes another one falls, another one falls, another one falls. I was already on top of all those bodies. I could already reach the roof. I'm short. I was always short. I couldn't see what other people saw, but the tall people. Finally, one day they unlocked the gate of the cattle cars, and if we went out 20, I am not exaggerating. Everyone died there. That was another way how to die, to kill people. When we walked out, we had a job in Auschwitz to clean those trains, to bring all those bodies to the crematoriums. That was our job. Then we had to clean the trains. And then I saw that gathering all the young people, the young boys, they're gathering them. And there were rumors, we didn't know, but we thought they're taking them away, they're not good for work, we didn't know that there exist gas chambers that are gassing people. We didn't know about that. And I was very naive, very young. I followed orders. If I wouldn't follow orders, I wouldn't be alive. Sometimes I think that even the Warsaw Ghetto, if they would not have made the revolution, the uprising, maybe they will have survived, some of them, but I cannot go into those things. When we followed orders, we had a chance to survive. If somebody was doing something that it was not being ordered, there were big punishments. For example, they would count 1, 2, 3, 10, the 10th out. Every 10th out. They would take hundreds of people and kill because of some sabotage or something not to follow their order. So, as a young boy, I didn't realize the seriousness of the situation, even though that I saw all those killing and all those atrocities. In the concentration, okay, finally I saw that they were taking all the young people. I was scared, but they needed that group, the survivors of that long train that was sent from Plaszow to Auschwitz, very long train, and there were thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dead people there. We had to work there for weeks to clean up. Then we had to clean the trains. And then we came to Auschwitz, and they needed in Birkenau, when they built it, the Birkenau, that was a death camp, Birkenau, gas chambers. So that land was also very moist, so we had to dig trenches around them. When I was now, I showed the people where I was. I told them before, then I told them, look, that's where I was working. And there was pictures there. I said, among those pictures, I must be there among those pictures. Anyway, in Auschwitz, after that work, they were packed. They didn't have room for us. So they sent us to another Gan Eden called Mauthausen. When they sent us from one camp to the other, we never knew where we're going. Are we going to live? Or are we going to die? One day, they packed us up on trucks, and they took us to a forest. So we said, "Oh, that's it." That's it. We saw the forest. When we came there were hundreds of bodies. They took us to load those bodies on trucks. So we were not shot, we were taking the shot people to mass graves, to miracles after miracles after miracles. From there, the Mauthausen was a concentration camp that was quarries. Quarries, we had to chop their rocks, to chop rocks. And there were 184 stairs. I made a mistake when I was writing about it. I said 190. Somebody corrected me. There were not 190, there were 184 stairs. And on that stairs, I went in up and down a few times, carrying those rocks. You cannot imagine, it's unimaginable. People with those rocks were just rolling down, fell down there and didn't get up. In Mauthausen, again, they brought a lot of people. There are a lot of stories, but I'm not going to go into them. So they sent us away. Mauthausen had branches, so they sent us to a place called Melk in Austria. And there we had to dig in quarries or in mountains, make tunnels. In those tunnels, the Germans were hiding their weaponry, their ammunitions, to protect it against bombardment of the Allied forces. There we were for about 6 months. They sent us to another place, Ebensee, about the same thing, but a little worse. In Ebensee, we were also like 5-6 months or something like that. We had no idea of days. We didn't know when Sunday, when Shabbos, when Yom Tov. We didn't know nothing. We were I was talking to somebody, so the MC said they were like animals. When I start speaking, I said, Halavai, we would be like animals. They would have fed us. We are sick, they would call a veterinarian. There would be a few millions alive today. We were subhuman, we all know that. And that Ebensee, we all did all kind of works that they needed, and we obeyed, we worked, opposing. When we heard, I spoke the language, I spoke German, so I understood. When those SS sometimes got together, when we were working or marching, and when they were talking among themselves, boasting how successful they are, how many countries they occupy, this country, that country, that country, they're ruling the world. And the more they boasted, the more we saw that we are condemned to die in captivity. We never dreamed that will ever come out. So one day, and with that I want to conclude, and we'll go a little bit with the questions. One day in Ebensee, in the morning, there's no siren. I don't know what's happening. Quiet. So we stayed in the barracks, and we stayed, nothing happened. All of a sudden, there's an alarm. The siren is ringing, and with a very, very loud voice, everyone goes out to the Appellplatz, means the square where we always assemble. So everyone comes out there, and there is a bima, and on the bima goes up the Lagerkommandant, the head of the SS, and surrounded with a bunch of them, and says like this: we want to protect you from the enemy, because there is no time. We have to do it very fast. Everybody has to go into the tunnels, to the quarries, to the holes there, because we want to protect you from the enemies. Fast, fast, fast. And there was rumors in the camp, I don't know how and why, that all those tunnels and whatever was dynamite. There was all explosive there. They wanted to blow us up there. So there was all of a sudden a scream from the whole tens of thousands of people. I was number 85,000. There was probably more than that. Everybody started yelling in German, 9, 9, 9, no, no, no. So they started with machine guns. They started to shoot. We fell on the floor. A lot of us fell on the floor, and we were lying on the floor. When the shooting stopped, we lift our heads and we look at the bima. That bima is empty. Nobody's there. And meanwhile, we look around, and there's a lot of bodies, blood bodies. We got up. What's going on? We don't know. Anyways, there was another few people there. There was also one German that was a copper. The name was Lolo. Was a very, very fine guy. Just to give you one example of who he was an Austrian, not Jew. He was for political things. One day we were working under him on the railroads, putting gravel, putting trucks, and the wooden, how do you call them, whatever. So one older man said, Jeden, ihr weißt, was für Tag es sein? Did you know what day it is today? So we said, no. Heint is Yom Kippur. So we had a little shivers, Yom Kippur. So that Lolo guy, that couple, said, what's going on? What is it? What is it? So said, this is the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. It's a very holy day. Really? Throw away the shovel, sit on the floor, lie down. I will stay on that big mountain of gravel, because the SS, there was thousands of people working maybe a few kilometers, and SS was circulating around. Sit down, do nothing, and I will stay there on that mountain, and when I will see one of them approaching, I'll give a geschrei, 6. Everybody grab the shovels and work hard. I come down and I'll start giving you with a whip. And when he will be away, sit down, don't work, Yom Kippur. After the war, we tried to reward him. So that was the liberation that we could never have imagined. We always prayed that come the day like today, that we will be sitting on that comfortable chair and be able to tell the story. Unfortunately, I was the only single one of the whole family of hundreds. I came back to my house and asked if somebody came back. If somebody would come back, where would they go? No, you're the first one to come. Finally, I was the first one and the last one to come. And that ended the tragic situation of the war with the concentration camps, with the killings and so on and so forth. After the war, I figured, since I survived, where millions didn't, it must be for something. It must be a reason. I have to do something. So I started doing something. I went back to Poland. And I knew about, so I overheard my father, my uncle, they were talking about Jewish children being hidden by non-Jews, by Goyim. And I made myself as a task, I have to go and after those Jewish children. And under communism after the word Jewish was not kosher. How could we get the power to bring Jewish children out of Polish homes, seminaries, monasteries, institutions? How could we do it? With God's help, we got the authority to do it under pretense that sounds good to the communist ears. What was it? I came out with an idea. We want to unite families where the Nazis separated. And that sounds very good. Under that logo, we were working. And we saved 600 Jewish children, 95% girls. And I was in charge at the time was Rav Herzog. There was no Israel, there was Palestine. He was the chief rabbi. And the telegrams at those times, back and forth. We want to send those kids to Palestine. We had an institution in Poland, Rabkazruj. I wanted to scream during the show. Did you see a little plane there called Warsaw Rabkazruj? That was the place that I was working, in Rabkazruj. We got there a building, and we got all the rights from the communist government to be able, we had there psychologists, we have doctors, we had schools, we have everything that we needed for those children. With the children to survive was a very hard job. Number one, it is like find a needle in a haystack. We had to interview so many families. We had to find enemies of the families that had a Jewish child, that they should tell us. Well, and the Jewish children didn't want to come with us, and the Polish families didn't want to give the children to us. But we had the power to take them, so we took them. And so the end of the story, those children eventually came to Israel when Israel became a Medina. The other thing that I was very much for to do, that I felt that I have survived, I have to take some nikama, some revenge. What was the revenge? The revenge was to find those Nazis, those lager commandants, those murderers that I knew them, where I was. I didn't know about others. So first and foremost was the butcher of Plaszow, Amon Get.
Whoa.
I have a picture from him. I'm not going to do that. All right. And I was very successful after a long time to find him and to beat him and to kick him and to punch him and to whatnot. And spit in his face. Why did you hang Mr. Kanner? There was a situation where you hanged Mr. Kanner. The gallows, forgive me for my unlearned English. I didn't go to school, so my English is most from one of those languages that I speak. If people ask me, you didn't go to school, I speak other languages, Spanish, whatever, German, whatever. Paul, where did you learn all those languages? Where did you get educated? So I said, I went to the School of Life. The School of Life educated me. So anyways, whatever I asked him, he wouldn't open his mouth. I saw him, he was a poor beggar, like you saw here the Jews. That was him. And if you remember how he was riding on his horse, with two big Dalmatians, the white and black dogs. I was bitten once by one of those dogs because he jumped on me and I covered my face, so I had here the teeth. There's still a little bit here because my skin changed many times over the years. Like I came in New York to a shul, so somebody recognized me and he came over and he said, Shalom Aleichem Yossel. Yossel. So I look at him, a beard, with payas, with a streimel. Couldn't recognize. I said, let me take off all that. And then I recognized who he was. And when he said Shalom Aleichem, I see a big KL. KL stands for Konzentrationslager. I said, oh my God, where did you get that? He said, Mielitz. I was Mielitz. And I got that KL. The minute I was touched with, first of all, you had to approach a desk, and he asked you your name. You saw here how they are. Your name, born, dead. You had to answer very fast. I never knew my birthday. But whatever came to my mind, I had so many birthdays. Wherever I came, I had a different. Whatever came to my mind, that's what I answer fast. If not, you get over your head with a whip. And after that they register you, another one was putting your tattoo, KL. The minute I went away from the desk, I started biting and biting and biting and spitting the blood out with the ink and biting and biting and biting. It was swollen and everything. Imagine if someone would have seen me doing this. I'm shot on the spot. And it totally disappeared over the years because I bit out everything. But anyway, so many things that it's hard to remember. And I will just try to stop here and ask Karen if there's anything of them.
There's so many questions, and your memory is remarkable, and your stories are unbelievable. Can you tell us about your aliya?
Okay. It was a dream for years. You know how hard it is sometimes to leave family, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, sometimes business, sometimes friends. It is hard to, but the will and the dream was there, and I said, at a certain point, at 88, I said, if I don't go now, I'll never go. And Nefesh and Nefesh was the ones that they always congratulated me for wanting to go, and it was my birthday, the 21st of July, and they said, Mr. Lefkovic, on your birthday, I said that you got a deal, and there was a nice goodbye party at the JFK. I was living in Canada, Montreal. I have to go to JFK, and there I was interviewed, of course, and they had a nice reception there, and they were calling out the names, and they said, we have on this flight, the youngest is 6 months, the youngest Ole is 6 months old, and the oldest is 88 years old, and then they called my name. And I was sitting in a corner, a little bit embarrassed, people looking around, where is he? Anyway, and they gave me a very, very good place. There's a lady here that was sitting with me in the plane. We got first class. First class. And there was even a Jewish minister. He's a minister now, not he was also sitting next by, and we had some discussion. And after I made Aliyah, I have no expressions how to thank Nefesh B'Nefesh really for all their welcome, and for all their help, and always asking, what can I do for you? Is there anything we can do? It's unbelievable. That institution is unbelievable. They are worth all the help in the world what we can give to them. Because till this very day, I still have called, would you like to go there? We are going there. Would you come with us? They're doing all kind of excursions and things and that. And I go many, many times, and I speak I also go to another place called Café Europa. There are people here from Café Europa. We also go places, So I join a lot of survivors wherever I can. And I tell the story wherever I can. And there is a umbrella organization for many organizations in London, England, J-Tours. They take me to Europe. I was twice this year. I was just the end of December, the 30th of December. I was in Europe and going around to many places, Warsaw, Lublin, Zhilizensk, and Belgium, and Krakow, and Auschwitz. Many of those Jewish places with hundreds of students that have no idea about the Holocaust. And they have hardly any idea that they are Jewish. And it is so important to talk to those students. They're very educated people. But unfortunately, they tell me that their parents didn't observe anything. They don't know about Pesach. They don't know anything. What did you do in Yom Kippur? I said, I do whatever I do every day. And then was another friend. He said, you never knew about Yom Kippur? So there was another one overhearing our discussions. Oh, I know about Yom Kippur. So I said, yeah, you know about, yeah, there was a Yom Kippur war. Anyways, it's amazing to talk to all those hundreds and hundreds of students. And sometimes they divide them by buses. There were like 8 buses, about 400 people or something. They divide them by buses to 50 to speak personally to every bus, get in touch with everyone. And then people come and tell you their stories and ask you questions and so on. So that's what I'm doing. That is my business today. Payment will be on the road to come, probably. I thought I'm coming to Israel, I'm retired, I have no business, I'll be able to do so many good things. So I'm doing good things, but I'm so busy, more than when I was busy. Oh, yeah, that is something. I was talking about aliya the other day, and people asked me, are you happy that you came to Israel, that you made aliyah? I said, I regret. What do you regret? I regret that I didn't come earlier. As I said, there is so much and so much. You saw here what is happening. All with my skin, with my life, I went through all those. Everything is a story. Everything is a different story. Wandering from places to places, hiding. But Baruch Hashem, thanks God we survived. You have any questions, Karen?
We're so honored that you're here and so honored to hear your story. We hope that many more people will continue to hear it.
I also pray to God to give me good health, to give me arichas yomim.
Amen.
I should be able to tell this story, because there's very almost no Polish Jewries that can tell the story. You have survivors. You have survivors from Hungary, because the Nazis started in late 1944 for about 5-6 months, and they were liberated by the Red Army, by the Soviets, in early 1945. We had 6 months later being liberated by the Americans. So there was a short while that they went through that torture. So still he managed 500,000 Jews, Hungarian Jews, to kill. But in Hungary there were about 2 million Jews, so still left 1.5 million. In Poland was about around 4 million Jews totally liquidated. There was just a fraction of what remained after the war. And I was from the youngest. They all people, I cannot find a single one surviving from the Polish, from the whole war, going through all the horrors and all the tortures. So, Baruch Hashem, thanks God for that I will be able to tell my story and do good work.
We would like to sing Hatikva.
Nefesh Yehudi Omiya Fatem Mizrach Kadima Ein Zion Sophia Anavda Tikvatenu Hatikva Matam Pahayim Yatam Chofshi Be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim Yatam Chofshi Zion, Yerushalayim.